Each photo that you just saw was shot on the Canon 6D, a camera that came out in 2012, 8 years ago as of the filming of this video, and a camera that I bought used in 2015 and shot with as my main camera through 2019. And it still takes amazing images. It still gets the job done, and that's why I still carry it around as my second camera. And that's why today I want to talk about why your old DSLR is still great in 2020. I just want to say this. You do not need the latest and greatest, most expensive camera gear to be an amazing photographer. You do not. That gear helps if you are a professional, having the best gear around, the best lenses, best camera body, all the lighting equipment. That helps you get the job done. That helps you achieve that caliber of professional image. But if you're a hobbyist, if you're someone just getting started out, if you just enjoy photography or you're jumping into the professional realm, you do not need the most expensive and the greatest camera in order to be great at what you do. Now, with that being said, let's dive into the first point I have, and that is that these things are built like a tank. They are built so well. And I say these are built like a tank because I have had this thing as my main body for 4 years straight, and I have hiked all the mountains, I have bumped into walls, I have bumped into said mountains, I have had this slung around for weddings, bouncing here and there, lots of lens swaps out in the field, and this camera endures all of it. I have had no issues with this camera. The only thing that has broke on this camera was that this mode dial popped off during some shoot. But I mainly shoot manual anyway, so it didn't really bother me that much. But that was like a $5 fix by buying some piece on Amazon. Other than that, the camera works fantastic, and the ergonomics of these things is awesome. I mean, it just naturally fits right into your hand, and you feel like you can just go out and create amazing work just by holding these things. And the button layouts are great as well. I honestly miss some of this layout in the EOS R, and I know they fixed that with the R6 and R5, but those just came out and they're pretty expensive. But the ergonomics are fantastic on these old DSLRs. They are built like a tank. They can handle pretty much anything you throw at them, and they are built to last. Next up is that these cameras offer a solid amount of megapixels for pretty much any photography work that you go to do. Unless you are shooting for big billboards and you need 50 megapixels in order to achieve that, these old cameras are going to get the job done. This camera right here, I believe, has 20 and a half, 21 megapixels, something like that. You can Google it and correct me if you want right there. But I have had no issues printing images from this camera and them looking poorly or anything. They look fantastic. And let me show you that real quick. I'm gonna grab some. All right, check this out. Let me make sure there's not a reflection on this guy right here. This is a 16 by 20 print. It's big, and you know what? It looks great. I don't see any pixels on this thing. It looks fantastic. And let me show you an even bigger print. All right, you guys ready for this? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get knocked out of frame with this thing. This is a 20 by 30 aluminum print shot on the Canon 6D. And it looks awesome. It looks so good. There are no issues printing huge photos from these cameras. 20 megapixels gets the job done, and your work will look great. I also want to mention that your images are going to look great in the digital realm as well. If you're just posting to Instagram and Facebook, places like that, your images are going to look great. You have no need to worry about the amount of megapixels in these old DSLRs. Even on the old crop sensor DSLRs like the T3i, which I believe had 16, maybe 18 megapixels, there is no need to worry about your images looking poorly if you're posting to the digital space like Instagram or Facebook. So don't think you need some 50 megapixel camera in order to get a good image. Now this is one of my favorite points right here, and that's that these cameras shoot RAW. You can shoot RAW for your photography. And what is RAW? This differs from JPEG because JPEG bakes a lot of the information into your image, making it harder to edit. You don't have as much dynamic range, you don't have as much information in your image. But with RAW, you have a lot more information because the camera isn't baking in a lot of that information. It's leaving it untouched so that you can bring it into Photoshop, Lightroom, whatever imaging editing software you have to edit that image so that you can make it pop, you can make it stand out and look really, really good. And these old cameras offer that. You can shoot RAW with this camera to boost your dynamic range, to be able to take that image into your image editing software and make it look professional, make it look fantastic. So I definitely recommend shooting RAW if you want to hear more about that. I did a video on it and I'm gonna throw that up in a card like over here, I think, and you can check that out to hear more about why you should shoot RAW. Let's talk about the low light performance of these cameras. Now, if you have an old crop sensor camera like the T2i or something like that, you aren't going to get as good of low light performance. You're most likely going to stick at about 1600 as your max before you get a lot of noise in your image. But if you're shooting with the 6D, a full frame old DSLR that came out in 2012, I'd be comfortable saying that you can shoot up to 6400 and then bring it into Lightroom and denoise some of your image, and it's still looking fairly clean. I've shot low light events at 6400 and I'm pretty pleased with how these images look coming out of this camera. Now, yes, the newer cameras offer better low light performance. I mean, we would hope for that after 8 years of technology progressing. But these guys right here, they still get the job done. And unless you are a top-tier professional and you need the highest image quality possible, there's no need to invest in that really expensive brand new gear. All right, this is awesome right here. And that is that this camera has Wi-Fi built into it. And I cannot attest for all old DSLRs, but the Canon 6D has Wi-Fi built in it. And that means you can take your images on your camera, send them to your phone, edit them on your phone, and then post straight to social media from your phone without having to download them onto your computer. I loved having that feature on this camera. I loved having Wi-Fi, being able to send images to my phone, to play around editing them, to see them. It was awesome, and I love having that in such an old camera. From a financial aspect, this is important to note that the old lenses for these cameras are getting cheaper and cheaper. And that is great news if you are just getting started with photography. You want to save money, right? Well, now these lenses that were made to be professional grade lenses for these cameras when they came out, they are reducing in price rapidly, especially since a lot of camera companies like Canon have started to grow their mirrorless line with the EOS R, the R5, the R6. I mean, the same has happened with Sony and Nikon as well. So these old lenses, they're starting to decrease in price, which is great news for you because you can get really fantastic quality lenses for cheap. I mean, who doesn't want to save money and still get amazing quality? That's great to know. Guys, please do not feel obligated to buy the latest and greatest camera gear. You do not need the most expensive, the most new gear in order to be a great photographer. Being a great photographer comes from knowing what to do with this tool. A great photographer knows how to shoot manual. They understand composition, they understand lighting, they understand posing, they understand how all these things work together. And that's what makes you a great photographer, when you can combine all these elements, go out there and create true works of art, create amazing images. And of course, that new gear is going to help you, but it is not what makes you a great photographer. Don't be discouraged about not having the latest and greatest gear. Take your old gear out there, create some amazing work that you're really proud of, and find the joy of photography. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like. That really helps the channel out. And be sure to subscribe to see more of my content. Ring the bell to get notified when that content comes out. And thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in the next one.